So I was hoping for some better update as far as coating the semi-hollow body with the spar urethane, because I was doing it coat by coat, sanding with 600 grit sandpaper, letting it dry very thoroughly, and I am my own worst enemy. I went with a heavy coat, and what I'm noticing is that there were lots of areas where it ran and got uneven finishes. And the reason why I got greedy was in between the coats, when I was scuffing it up with the 600 grit sandpaper, you know, I was going over areas where I could see there were dust nubs, there were little pits and some orange peel, and I wasn't concerned about blending it in at that point. I just figured I'd get it scuffed up and then do another coat, and I was hoping to build it up to the point where I could feel completely safe about, you know, doing a little bit more aggressive sanding, but also hoping I could work up in grit and get close to a finish coat. But I am going to have to go back now and get all of this, especially the runs and glob areas, sanded down. So that's where I'm at, and it's all my fault. So at this point, after sanding off all those imperfections, runs, drips, sags off of the body, I have applied multiple coats of the spar urethane, and I really just quickly wanted to go over good points and bad points of the spar urethane. Good point number one is that it remains flexible even after it fully cures, which takes about 2 weeks. So as the wood expands and contracts due to temperature, the spar urethane will expand and contract with it. Good point number two, you know, so far I have used a clear top coat on my guitar kits with 3 different things. I've used lacquer, I've used acrylic enamel, and I've used the spar urethane, all with the gloss finish. This is by far the glossiest of gloss finishes I've encountered with any of the top coat products I've used. Good point number 3 is it's a very low odor coating. It definitely is not odor free, but you know, when I top coated the Chibson Czech Explorer with the gloss acrylic enamel, you know, my wife was like, what the fuck are you doing down in the basement? Because the entire house reeks. And it did. And with the spar urethane, it's minimal odor, and I haven't had anyone say anything up to this point. The negatives are it's flexible. So, you know, even after it fully cures, it still remains flexible, which means it's soft. So scratching and gouging are much more possible with this spar urethane top coat than pretty much anything else. Bad thing number 2, as you can see, it really yellowed the binding, that I had worked pretty hard to scrape the stain and wax and teak oil off of, but it does give it a vintage look with the yellowing of the binding. I don't think I'm going to invest any time after completing this to re-scrape off the binding. Negative point number 3 is strictly a time issue, you know, as it points out on the can. Once you apply a layer of coating, you need to reapply another coat within 1.5 hours after the previous coat. What I've been doing is waiting an hour. I really like how Dirty Yeller came out. I think the wax did help bring out the grain of the wood. I do like the imperfections that, you know, like here, it almost looks like a water spot. In this area up here, you know, it's very unique, and I do like the way that it looks. The only other thing I wanted to mention was this is a Temu Jigsby tremolo system. It was $42 from Temu. I did scuff it up and painted it with the same metallic paint I used on the pick guard. The pick guard I top coated with acrylic enamel gloss, and I used satin on this to go with the more vintage look. So that's where I'm at this stage. The neck, I just applied some more spar urethane to, because I had to wet sand down some thick spots on the headstock and then go over it again with the spar urethane. I'm hoping a 2-week cure time period, and then coming back sanding with high grit sandpaper and polishing and buffing will be the next step in all of this.